In this video, we will discuss how adoption assistance and non-recurring expenses eligibility is determined in a pre-adoption case in NC FAST. A child on a pre-adoption case may be eligible for HIV supplemental payments, SSI, SCAIF, 4E, 4B, and non-recurring expenses. An adoption worker can check for adoption assistance eligibility at any time during the pre-adoption case. However, certain actions and evidence are required to make the child eligible. For example, NC FAST requires them to have the TPR and/or relinquishment on either their ongoing or pre-adoption case, and their legal status must be legally free for adoption. The petition for adoption must also be filed to receive non-recurring expenses. Running the eligibility check before the petition is filed will most likely show the child as ineligible. Additionally, at a minimum, household members, household relationships, and reasonable efforts evidence must be recorded. Our demo will begin with sufficient evidence existing for the child to qualify for 4E and HIV supplemental payments. We will begin by adding expense evidence to be eligible for non-recurring expenses. Let's start in the Evidence tab within the pre-adoption case. When we see the Evidence dashboard, hover over Expenses Evidence until the plus sign appears. This is under the Expense section. And click the plus sign. The new Expenses pop-up window appears. Here we enter the corresponding amount and select the expense type. Then we'll click Save. Once we've added the evidence, we notice two icons next to it. These represent that the item needs to be verified and that the evidence is still in edit mode. To resolve this, we need to add proof to verify the evidence, then we should apply the changes. We click on the Verifications folder, and then the List Actions menu, and select Add Proof. We're going to add proof in the form of an expense receipt. The expense receipt as the item auto-populates, so we need to select the case participant and then attach the file by browsing. We'll enter a description and copy this description into the comments section. Then we'll select our document type and choose Expenses. Click Save. Now we'll navigate back to the Evidence dashboard. From the Page Actions menu, select Apply Changes. Check the Evidence checkbox and click Save. Now that all the evidence has been applied, we can check eligibility. Navigate to the Eligibility tab and click Check Eligibility. We're going to check the Use Active Evidence Only checkbox, and we're going to select both non-recurring expenses and adoption assistance, and click Run. Our decision displays as eligible for both non-recurring expenses and adoption assistance. If additional evidence is added or modified, we would have to recheck for eligibility, as the result might change. For example, a child that was not eligible before might be eligible later if new medical conditions evidence is added. The most recent eligibility check appears at the top of the list. We'll only see one line item here, since this is the first time we've checked eligibility on this pre-adoption case. To view the eligibility information in more detail, we'll click Toggle. And then we'll click Toggle again on Adoption Assistance. Notice that multiple decision periods are shown from now until the child becomes of age. Generally, the age would be 18, but it could be 21 years old for children with significant needs, or if the child is adopted at 16 years or older. We'll see the monthly amount the child will receive on each decision period. Let's click the Decision Periods hyperlink to learn more about the criteria that made the child eligible. Once we click the hyperlink, the Adoption Assistance Decision tab opens. Here we see a summary of which financial aid the child is eligible for. Pass or fail is displayed next to each potential adoption assistance. The subsidy amount is displayed below. We can view the details of each adoption assistance by clicking on the corresponding tabs. Let's look at 4E eligibility under the Adoption Assistance tab. Here we see the child met the specified criteria for 4E or 4B when applicable. We can expand each section within the special needs parts to see which criteria passed or failed. For example, here we see the criteria for special needs part 1. Now we can navigate throughout the other tabs in the adoption assistance. We'll look at HIV next. Here we can see that the child is eligible for $1,200 a month for HIV supplemental payments. Now we'll check on the non-recurring expenses eligibility. We'll close out of this tab and head back to the decision on the pre-adoption case. We'll close this toggle for adoption assistance, and now we'll toggle non-recurring expenses. Select the decision period here. Here we see that the child is eligible for $200 in non-recurring expenses. We have seen how to check eligibility on the pre-adoption case. Please refer to the resources on Learning Gateway for additional information regarding adoption assistance and non-recurring expenses eligibility.